Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Hanging Out with Nolan Hong. And joining us this week on the podcast is not only a good friend to me, but a really good friend to Jamie. In fact, she probably talks to Jamie the most out of anybody in the world aside from myself because they actually like have a weekly meeting. Anyways, we'll get into that later. But this person is so near and dear to me. She's a spiritual entrepreneur coach, but she's also like got so many talents and skills, and in fact she's helped me with hypnosis. Not that I'm doing it, she did hypnosis for me, if that makes any sense, to help me with a lot of things. Super cool, and just a wonderful human being. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest, Michelle Reavis. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Nolan. Oh, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast today. I was so happy when you asked, and of course, I couldn't wait. And I've been looking forward for a very long time to get
Yeah, I
together.
mean,
And yeah,
we've been planning this, like, I think I asked you like over a year ago after we had done when you had did a the hypnosis session for me, and then it just like kept taking a long time. I'd forget to follow up with you, and then like I got sick and I had to reschedule so many times. So this has been a long time in the making. So I'm super glad that we finally are doing this.
yes, me too. Yeah, and I'm so honored that I get to spend so much time with Jamie, as much time as I guess almost as much time as you
Yeah.
do, because I'm sure your listeners know that she's the amazing, wonderful, just so supportive and does so much in the business. And yeah, and both of you are near and dear to my heart. So this is such a treat to
Yeah, I
get to
think
talk to you also.
yeah.
Yeah.
The number one comment we get in the pod as far as our podcast listeners is, where's Jamie and when is she coming back? So this is, I think, the closest we'll get to having her back is through you and your experiences with her. But I wanted to, I mean, I know what why you talk with Jamie every week, but I wanted to have our listeners find out like why you and Jamie are meeting every week, and how this whole relationship started between you two.
Yes. Oh, I'd love to answer that question. So Jamie and I were both in a course, and this is for digital course creation. So it teaches you how to come up with the idea of the course and how to structure it and how to create it and also how to market it, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a group, a Facebook group. And for some reason, I saw Jamie, and then we needed pod partners. So people we could be accountable to and share our experiences, a shoulder to cry on if needed, back and forth, feedback. And so I just looked at Jamie's picture and like, oh, I would like to see if she would like to be my pod partner. I did not realize that she lived in Hawaii.
Oh, so I see. I assumed that you had reached out to her because you knew, because this is like a international group, right? So it's
Right.
not that you knew, like. So I thought you knew. Oh, here's someone from Hawaii. That's why you reached out. I didn't realize that you didn't know she was from Hawaii before you
No,
reached
so
out.
I picked her. I was drawn to her for some reason. And then I don't remember if I looked at her Facebook and I thought, oh, she's from Hawaii. Even better, we don't have to worry about time zone
Yeah,
changes. So I reached out, and I tell you that my intuition never fails me. It always has my back. The universe always has my back. And she's been the best partner to meet one on one with every Monday morning. That's our regular Monday morning. We've been doing it for over a year
that's so crazy.
consistently. If we can't see each other in person, we email like, okay, I got these things done, or I didn't get
Yeah.
these things done, and then okay, well, we're gonna roll it over next week, or yeah, keep it on the list, keep it on the books that we're gonna take care of it. And she's been great. Yeah.
In regards to being an entrepreneur, like how important has it been to have some, like, I think this accountability partner is kind of a newer thing, and I don't necessarily know if there's a lot of people who are familiar with it. So how important has that been for you in your business, and why is that something that you felt like this is something that you needed, like to find somebody to be that accountability partner?
Right, because it's kind of sad, but when you promise yourself something, sometimes it's easy just to put it back burner it and put it off to the side. But when
Mm,
you're saying that to someone else, you that okay, this is what I'm gonna do. They're gonna be okay. Did you do it or did you not do it? And then you don't want to let your partner down.
yeah,
So if you just kind of just watch Netflix all week long and didn't do your work, you don't have a boss per se to say, hey, this is
right.
due by 5 o'clock. You got to get it done. So it's nice to have someone that I know she always has my back, and she knows I always have her back. And so if we need anything, or that's the really nice thing about Jamie, is like she's the best partner. She's so smart and so creative. I'm always stunned at the things that she comes up with, that she creates for your business, and how creative she is, and how much she knows about video, and how much she knows about creating even the assets of brochures, or yeah, I'm always so amazed and impressed by her. So I got so lucky. And I like pat myself on the back, like, yes, Michelle, you did good. You chose a really good partner. Yeah. Yeah. And it's
Well,
so nice to have that as an entrepreneur, because sometimes it gets lonely because you're just
yeah.
behind your little laptop screen and keyboard, clicking away, and you forget to interact with people. And it's nice to have a peer and like a business best friend. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
very
and I gotta
blessed.
imagine too, like if you didn't have someone like that, that the other network around you that you would bounce things off of would either be friends or family. And if they're not in that same kind of environment as you, or thoughts space, that I can imagine there's a lot of one, bad advice, but two, lack of empathy and lack of awareness, right? And like, just do this and stuff, like, like I've heard that kind of conversation. It's like, you have no idea like what I've gone through to get to this point, to get to this issue, and for you to just be like, throw out this like, whoa, why don't you just do this? It's like,
Right.
because of
Oh,
all of this stuff that I went through to avoid doing that.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, what are you doing behind you? You're looking at your screen on your computer all day long, as if like
Yeah.
I'm playing video games or something,
Yeah.
or I'm just messing around. No, I'm actually making a good effort to get move the business forward and create these
Hmm.
things. And yeah, yeah, Jamie knows well. Yeah.
Well, I I can appreciate and I agree with you in all of the praises that you gave Jamie, but I have to throw it your way too, in that I am so grateful that she found you, because of what you've not only meant to her, but it actually has helped me a lot too, because
Oh.
like and we've talked about this in the podcast too, like as a married couple and business partners, like it can get really difficult, and especially in the communication and understanding each other, and understanding each other's perspectives. And I cannot say enough how many times we've been in a funk, or in a situation or a stressful period of work or personal, and all I could think of was, like, at the time when we're going through, is I can't wait for Jamie to have her meeting with Michelle, because I need somebody else to have her, like, and it's not that you fight for, my perspective or anything. It's just that it helps so much to get that third perspective of somebody outside of the situation, to not only give her ideas, but to give her grace, to give her support, to give her all that stuff, which then in turn she brings to me. And then there's been so many times that
Oh,
we've had a conversation after your guys' meeting, and it's like, okay, Michelle brought up this great point, and she said this, and I was like, oh, that is a good point. Like, oh, we've been fighting about this the wrong way, and like now, and so much has helped. So it's like almost like you are our marriage, business, and like every like counselor all in one. And so the it goes, I guess, three ways here of the
oh,
appreciation of you guys finding each other. So
oh, that's so sweet.
I just want you to know that.
Oh, I'm so happy I could be that person for the both of you. And um, I love that she will share with you some of the antics that go around in our house with missing pet mice and how I have a new cat unexpectedly. And
Yeah, I gotta say that along with all of the great advice and feedback that you give her, the thing I look forward to most is like it's almost like you are my Netflix series. Because when I ask her, so how did your call with Michelle go? I don't necessarily mean like what did you learn or what kind of business stuff did you do. I mean more like, so what happened this on this week's episode of what's going on at Michelle's house? Because
right.
you gotta explain these references of the missing mice thing, because that was the first story that I kind of got hooked on. So you got it's a tremendous story. So tell everybody about what this missing mice story is.
Yes. So my daughter brought home a pet mouse, and um, I was not thrilled at all. And this was, I think, she was an Einstein of mice because she found ways to get out of her her habitat.
Uh-huh.
She found like holes, or she would bite through plastic or through netting. I mean, we're constantly losing her, and uh, I would have to sleep in her room, and the little mouse would like scurry across my feet, and it would be terrifying knowing that she's in there somewhere, and that I can't get her, and that she could at any minute like spring out and attack me basically.
So you have to explain why you were staying in your daughter's room with the the mouse on the loose, and why your daughter wasn't in there, or why you guys couldn't just like shut the door and leave the mouse in there so you could sleep somewhere else. Like why was that the situation?
Well, wait, I can't remember why I was in there, stuck in there with her, and she was in my room, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, this
Yeah.
isn't this isn't this isn't doesn't sound right. I think she got sick, or I don't
uh
remember the story, but um
I thought it had to do with something like somebody was afraid of it, and like or something. I forget, but I
yeah.
did find it odd and hilarious that you didn't want the mouse, and then here you are the one who's like having to stay in the room with this mouse on the
Oh,
loose.
I remember why I had to stay in the room, because we were on the lookout. We're trying to catch her
Yeah.
in the room. And
Hmm.
so there was always, well, my daughter had to go to work, and when she was gone, or when she stayed, at a friend's or whatever, I was the one who was like, okay, like a very bad cat, a very good, a very bad cat, a very good fraidy cat. And so I would leave food out, and then I would see her, but I was always too scared to like track her.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I tried so many things. I'm going to leave the door open so that the food's in there. But then I missed her, and, she'd just get the food and come out. I'm like, oh my God, she's totally outsmarting me. Um, so yeah, I don't remember how we got her, but got her back, but that was the end of it. She found another home.
I
I
thought
was like,
Is she not the one that got pregnant too?
Uh, right.
Or is that a different
Yes.
mouse? Okay.
No, this is the one that, yeah, had babies, but not in our house. It went
Oh.
on. So, it was, we just thought it was fat. But then when she went on to the other place, she was not fat. She was not well fed. And then so there was something that went on before my daughter got the mouse when she brought it home, and then when
Oh,
it found
okay.
a new home. So thank goodness, the universe has my back. Thank goodness that we didn't have, many tiny mice um,
Yeah, I
before.
thought it was that while she was on the loose, she found a mouse friend and then got pregnant. And that's why you guys are like, oh shoot, we might have a problem here.
Exactly, because we saw, so my son saw a mouse in the house, and he said, "Oh, she's gotten dirty. Like she's brown now." and, and like she is not dirty. She was kind of cream colored.
Yeah.
So I'm like, she's not dirty. That's that's not Roddy's mouse.
So
So
there's another mouse. And it wasn't that you brought in this other mouse, it just found its way into your home.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
a
But
feral mouse.
yeah, but then so I didn't know if they got together or not. But then she definitely was fat towards the end when we got rid of her. So I don't know how gestation of mice and works, but from when we got her, she was progressively like well fed and I guess well entertained. Maybe that's why she was trying so hard to get out of the habitat. I have no idea,
Yeah.
but it was
There's a male
terrifying.
suitor out there.
They I don't know, pheromones or whatever it's called, or the call of the opposite sex of a
Yeah.
song, the swan song or whatever it's called. Yeah, but yeah, and now I have a cat.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't have a mouse. And that cat came by the same person, the same child.
And I find it hilarious too that child of yours doesn't always stay at home. So it's like I just imagine like when I hear these stories because I'm getting it third party that it's like, hey mom, got this new animal, plop. All right, see you later.
Uh,
Vroom, just drives
basically,
off.
basically, that's the situation. So it's called payback because I brought home a little dog named
Hmm.
Momo, and then now that dog is now my mother's dog because
Oh,
that
okay.
dog loves my mother. And my father never used to be a dog person. He grew up, dogs were kind of wild and vicious and,
Mm.
feral. Um, but then this dog just kind of melted his heart, and now he's total, yeah. Momo is her name. He's total Momo lover, and so I'm like, oh, that's great. And now I feel like my son has given me two dogs. Like I always refer to them as my dogs. I'm like, hey, don't scold my dogs, or my dogs are hungry, or my dogs want to go for a walk, or they would love to go to the beach, but I refer to them as my dog. And now I have a cat, and now she's my cat. Because as Jamie knows, as as the world turns, in my world, my daughter now wants to go to Spain and study design in Spain.
Yeah.
So of course the kitty is not going to go to Spain with her. So
No.
guess who really has a cat now? Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So I'm sorry that you have to go through this, but I'm also like really grateful because it's one of the most entertaining storylines that I look forward to every week. So thanks for providing me with great what is it? My reality soap opera.
Yeah, yeah. It's so much fun. There's never a dull moment with kids around, and of course,
That's the truth, yeah.
with the boys, there's always
Hmm.
something.
Well, you mentioned earlier that like you feel like you're intuition has never failed you, and it's so strong. And I was curious if that's kind of what's if that is the case, like how you've always felt this deep connection to your intuition. Is that kind of what led you to this, life of, you know, your on for yourself spiritual entrepreneurship, but also coaching spiritual entrepreneurs? And I know that you are so like well versed in so many different practices and such. Um, is that kind of what started it all for you?
Um, so as a kid growing up, I was always very sensitive. So I could always tell, like, oh, if that girl in class, she's not having a good day because something at home, she's dealing with stuff at home. So then I was kind of like a loner when I was young because it was just so much information, so much. I guess I was really empathic back then, that all this,
Hmm.
kid energy of different classmates and whatnot. So when it came time for going on the playground, I just sat back and observed and watched everybody. And
When
so,
you experience that, like, what is it like? Is it that you can, like, you look at them and recognize it, or is it that just being in their presence you can almost feel it? Like, is how does that connection work for when you were, you know, feeling that kind of
yeah,
understanding of what's going on with them?
yeah. So for me, I would see so and so walk into class, and she would look fine, and she would be acting fine. But then I could sense, like, oh, she just got, I want to say, scoldings by her mom, and she's very sad, even though she's
Um,
laughing with friends. So, and then I would never know what to do with that information. So I would just always kind of just distance myself. And I knew like who I could play with, like play and be fun with and joke around with, and who I couldn't. So there was a boy that sat next to me, in I forgot what grade it was. His name is Kevin, and I could joke with him that his milk always smelled funny because he had powdered milk. And so I'm like, oh, Kevin, why does your milk always smell that way? And, I was very comfortable with him,
hmm.
because I knew he was like an easy, he wouldn't like take it and then like be upset with me. So I knew who I could interact with and it would be just to leave them alone rather than like poke a bear. So
Hmm.
um, that was helpful, but it was also too much information. Like, can you imagine like all these
Yeah.
energetic kids and with all their things and
Yeah.
emotions and issues and thoughts and yeah, it was just a lot. So as a kid, I was very introverted and shy because there's just a lot of information coming to me. But I did learn how to
Did
like turn it off.
did you have any kind of support with, like, did you understand what was going on, and were you able to talk to anybody about it, like family or anything?
No, no, no,
Oh wow.
no. I just kept it to myself, and just like stuffed it, which is not healthy. So just
Yeah.
stuffed it. Even in high school, like I had great friends, but during lunchtime, I would go hide in a classroom and eat my lunch because that I was just,
Mm,
I was just comfortable. It was my like decompression time
yeah.
from people and the stress of, school and tests and assignments and all of that. But I'd have to say that I really leaned into it after my fourth child was born, my daughter. Um, After that, I had some complications after her birth, and I believe I had like a near death experience
Oh wow.
because there was so many complications. And then after that, I'm like, there's this feeling. You know how some people say near death experience, they see this light and people will
Mm-hmm.
greet them. Well, I didn't have that experience. I had like a feeling of deep peace
Wow.
of that I could like viscerally remember, not like visually or mentally remember,
Yeah.
but like physically remember or viscerally remember, like in my cells, in my
Mm.
atoms. And so I thought, okay, there's something here to this. It's very healing. And I found it very, um, not like anything that I was experiencing before. So I'm like, okay, it's then Reiki came and I took Reiki classes. Then I found my first love, which is numerology and the meaning behind the numbers. And then from there, it snowballed to anything and everything spiritual, of the light. Yeah. And then that's why I have such a soft spot for spiritual entrepreneurs, is
Mm.
because I believe that they have so much good to offer in the world, so much healing, so, improving people's lives, relationships, that I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to champion these people. And I can understand that they love to learn. I mean, they will spend money on the next class, but not necessarily on their website, their business tools. So, I want to, and I love geeking out on all of that stuff of website and the tech part of it. So that's the odd thing about me, that I'm spiritual, but also like the tech. And that's
Yeah.
often something that they, like a lot of spiritual people say. I'm like, oh, I'm just so bad with tech.
Yeah. Why is that kind of the norm? I mean, you are kind of not the norm with that, but why do you think a lot of people who are really deeply spiritual like just don't really jive with tech
With
stuff?
tech, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's twofold. One, it's a mindset thing where
Mm.
tech is very like technical. So,
Hmm.
you have to follow these steps and then you have to input certain things in a certain order, or, where do I click on? It can be overwhelming. Like, I don't know where to click on for this, or
Yeah.
I don't know what to say on my website, or, I just can't, whatever. But if you break it down to like baby steps, anyone can follow baby steps. And the thing that I always say is that tech, that's all from the stars. So anything that we have, like technological advances, that's all for like progress, right? So that we
Mm.
can go to space, so that we can, assimilate data and process data faster. That's internet stuff. And so if you think about it, like all of this is opening yourself up, like expanding your world. That's very spiritual,
Yeah.
expanding your world. But it's just a different language that you have to learn, or it's just building confidence that you're not going to break your website if you click on that button you've never seen before.
Uh, be careful with that one because Jamie did that and she broke our website. But I'm sure
Well,
for everyone else, that's not the case.
yeah, yeah. Well, now they have. I recommend certain platforms that they have excellent, customer service, or you can
Hmm.
just hop on YouTube, or, they can always ask me if they have a question. I'm always happy to help. But yeah, now they're making it pretty accessible to anyone, like with their templates. You just plug
Yeah.
in your pictures, and, it's it's possible
Yeah,
to
and it's so neat because there's all these other kind of like even with like designing graphics and stuff like before, many years ago, it was just like if you want like to design something, you got to go and hire like a professional designer and it's going to cost thousands of dollars. And then now they have things like Canva where it's like, I'll just like here, and like all these like regular Joe Schmoes are like creating these beautiful, designs
yeah,
and stuff. And
yeah,
it works so quickly for you. Like you can like we used to always have to wait too, like months and months, and like you can get it
right,
in like minutes now, right?
right. You're the only thing that can hold up
Mm-hmm.
your marketing or your logo. And my mantra is, for now, not forever. Just make a decision.
Mm.
For now, it's not for forever. It's just for now. So you can always change it. So
Mm-hmm.
just just pick one, or just, make a decision, and you can always go back and tweak it. So don't get stuck in that. Keep that momentum going. So, yeah. And I
So
love to
aside,
work with them because they will put I encourage them to put their magic into whatever they're creating. So
yeah.
even though it's like on the internet, and it's something hard to conceptually grasp, I said that is like your studio. That is like where you practice
Hmm.
and communicate with people. That's your expo and your fair if
Yeah.
you're face to face with someone. Yeah.
W- for your the people that you've worked with and your clients and such, when it comes to spiritual entrepreneurs, like what do you think has been like the most like uh important thing of having someone like yourself who comes from that background, who has been doing a lot of different spiritual um, focuses and such, to have that as your background and foundation as you help them with their websites and tech stuff, versus like having somebody in that field reach out to like just a regular web designer or something like that. Like,
Right.
what have
Right.
you seen has been kind of like, this is why I need to do this, because
Mm.
of X.
Yeah, because they don't realize that they can change the header on their website, or they don't have the confidence, and I'm there to remind them it's not as difficult as you're making it out. It's actually sometimes it's a deeper issue, a more personal issue. Like maybe they have hesitancy because they don't want to be seen, because they
Mm,
think once their website is out on the interwebs, then that's any Joe Schmo can come and take a look at them, and see
yeah.
their offerings, and then that's it makes them nervous that they're going to be seen, and their
Hmm.
words are going to be read, and their voice is going to be heard. And so that's a little scary for some of the spiritual entrepreneurs. And then I love to remind them that their work is so important, and that there's somebody out there needing their work, and that's actually might even be suffering right now because they can't find them. So when you put that into perspective, they're more likely, because they're so kind and generous and always wanting to help
Mm,
others, then they shift that mindset, like, okay, yeah, I want to help people, so I'm putting this out there. And it makes me a little nervous, but I'm in service of someone else. So that's a really nice thing that helps them. So that's how I help them kind of shift the perspective. Yes, people are going to look at your website and see your face and your about page, but that there's a greater good behind it, a greater purpose.
yeah.
So, yeah.
You brought up a term that was stood out to me, where you said that when they realized that, yes, I am in service of someone else. And when I think about this type of work, as far as the spiritual I guess services, like, yeah, it is, it seems like it would have to be about, with the understanding of helping others, but is in a world where everyone is so selfish and it's stuff like, is it um is it possible for somebody who is, I guess, self-serving, or doing it for them, like doing this for themselves, to still be successful and effective? Or in your experience and what you see, like, those type of people can't make it, because it defeats the purpose of what spiritual work is for the world.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is they will attract what they're putting out. So they
Mm,
will get clients, but the clients are attracted to them for a certain reason, for an energetic reason that maybe they can't
yeah.
understand. Maybe it's the words that they use. But they're going to be getting certain types of clients because of what they're putting out there. So if they're
That makes
basically
sense.
all about the money, they're going to get people that are more transactional.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, okay, just it's going to be very black and white, and maybe they will be a little more critical because they have certain expectations of me. So
Yeah.
um, I don't know, like, if they would be successful in terms of like feeling fulfilled with who
Right.
they're helping. So
Yeah.
successful in that sense, maybe not. But if it's talking about transactions of finances and money, then maybe, because there's the exchange of finances. But then if you like, what does success mean to you? Does it mean doing meaningful
Mm-hmm.
work? Then, oh yeah, that kind of person is not successful.
Yeah.
And it could be a drain on them as practitioners, because they're working with some pretty difficult clients that might not be where they who they would like to be working with, or their
Mm-hmm.
best and highest joy working with those types of clients. So yeah, it just depends on the practitioner.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I think what we have been programmed incorrectly to believe is like, oh, if you're making money, then you're happy and that you're successful. And I will see sometimes, um, and it's not like on a personal level, but like if you see it like on TV, like this person is making millions of dollars, but you're like, they're such a bad person based on like what they're doing, and what they're putting out there is like so selfish and like
Right.
destructive to the fabric of society. They're doing so well, but then as you mentioned, it's like I I think that just because they have money doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy or that they feel fulfilled. And like, what kind of life is that to live if you don't have that sense of fulfillment and you don't have that joy or
Mm,
that reason for living? And so if they just keep that, may be why they keep trying to chase the dollar, because they think like if they can reach a certain amount, then they get that, and they're incorrectly going searching for the wrong thing,
right. Yeah.
right?
And that business model is not sustainable. It never lasts,
Mm,
because that's an energy drain for that person. And it's also, people always become wise, or they kind of will eventually see you or see them for what they are, that it's mainly transactional for them.
hmm.
So I'm not going to be part of that, or that's no longer,
Yeah.
where I want to put my focus, my energy towards that person. Because maybe they might be flashy in the beginning, but after they get to know people, that person,
Hmm.
that mentor, they're like, oh, it doesn't feel right, I need to head off in a different direction. So it could be
Yeah.
both ways. It's not sustainable. I feel like they will be here and then they'll be gone, or they'll be here on one thing and then they are doing something totally different, because
Yeah.
it it doesn't work for them anymore, and it's not authentic.
Oh.
So of course it's not gonna last.
And I also got to remind myself too, like, why does it matter to me what they're doing and going through? Because it doesn't affect me. Like, if they are being successful doing something that I don't agree with, like, I still, that doesn't affect me doing what I want. And am I living a fulfilled life? Am I feeling connected
Right.
to? You're right. So I got to
Yeah.
remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think that people who are, heart centered and soul based and really wanting to do good work in the world, they they eventually find each other. And
That's why we found
yeah,
you.
well, yeah.
Or you
So
found us, I guess.
yeah, so I also have that hope in the back of, on my mind, that we will find our people eventually.
I
And
I agree with that 100%, because this past, I don't know, 5, 6 years has been nothing but supporting that, what you just said, like of the and I always bring this up with Jamie too. It's like, man, we are so incredibly blessed with like the people that are in our lives, the friends that we have, and like how are we how is it so that we found so many like amazing people that we feel so deeply connected to. And
Mm-hmm.
what you just said was like, yeah, I agree with you. I believe that we eventually we find each other, and you find your tribe, so to speak, right?
Right. Yeah. 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 And then you have this support system
Mm-hmm.
that helps you grow, that helps you sustain your business, or you can always pivot and make changes. You know, and add in new things, and but you're still the same person. You're still serving certain kinds of people, where
Yeah.
they like, as spiritual entrepreneurs, they really want to make a difference. They really want to help people. That's their greatest joy, is helping them heal, helping them improve their lives, relationships, um, relationship with themselves, heal from the past, relationships with partners, relationship with God, source, universe, whatever noun you want to insert there. Yeah, yeah.
Of
So
all of the different spiritual practices that you've done and work in, are there any certain ones that you really like have a like, oh, this is my favorite, or one of my favorite things to do?
yeah, I would say that it would be the ologies, the numerology and the Vedic astrology, because
What is that?
Vedic astrology is
Yeah.
astrology, but from India, Indian astrology.
Oh.
So it's the sister science of yoga, Ayurveda. So it's all in the ancient Indian wisdom and knowledge that previously was passed down through only certain people, certain caste members. Um,
Hmm.
but now, with the way the 21st century is, we have so many great teachers. But I love the ologies. So because numerology was my first love. I always refer to it as my first love, because it was when I was learning them. It was like light bulbs and fireworks, and I'm like, oh wow, oh my goodness, how could just numbers be so meaningful and tell me so much about myself and my potential, and my birth promise and whatnot. So, and astrology, Vedic astrology, is very similar. And I have a funny story. um, when I was studying Western astrology, I was terrible astrologer. I could not remember if like Jupiter was a planet or a sign. I mean, it was awful. I'm like, Uranus is a sign? Nope, it's a planet. Yeah, I was really bad. But then I had like this past life memory where I was being persecuted. I was running away because I was an astrologer, and I said something. I gave information that this very wealthy person, I'm thinking it was a king or something, did not like. And so, like,
Mm.
I was supposed to be put to death. And so I remember running, and I remember sweating and breathing heavy and thinking, I'm just a messenger. I'm just, trying to help people, yet I'm about to die because I knew I was going to be caught soon. And yeah, it wasn't going to be great. But I remember like leaning against a wall, um, outside of a dwelling, and the surface of the wall was cool, and I was just so hot and sweaty. So just taking that moment to rest and put my face against the wall, it was just so soothing. And in that moment, I remember thinking, like, coming to terms with my death, and say and knowing that you lived your purpose, you tried to help. This is the circumstance you're in now, and it's time to just accept it. And and eventually move on. So after I had that past life memory, then I discovered Vedic astrology, and then I took to it like duck to water. And I could remember that Jupiter is a planet and not a sign. And there, which ones are planets and which ones are signs. And yeah. And it just opened up a whole new world, just finding that acceptance and I guess releasing that resistance to learning that sacred wisdom and tradition. And then finding Vedic astrology, then that was it. And then I'm constantly learning.
So from that, would you say that the reason why you couldn't hold on to it before this memory is that subconsciously or spiritually, you were resistant to learning it because of fear of, well, the last time I did this stuff, they murdered me, or but then when that memory happened of how you felt like at peace with that you had served your life's purpose, that it took away that connotation of like, oh, astrology equal death. Instead, it was, nope, this was just part of the path of life. And
Yes.
is that what you interpreted from? Oh, okay.
I have a really good feeling that that's what it was, because as soon
Wow.
as I had that memory, and then there's speculation and debate, right? Was that really a past life, or was I given that memory or that
Oh,
idea that that was something that happened? That's why I was resisting. Regardless, I always say, well, what was the effect? What was the benefit of it?
yeah.
That's the most important thing, not whether it
Yeah.
was true or not true, because then we can get stuck in that, right? And then it
Yeah.
doesn't serve a purpose. So I believe that, yeah, that was a beautiful gift that I was given to see that experience and like, feel that I'm out of breath, and I know I'm going to die, and just taking that moment and feeling that cold, kind of that the coolness of the wall that I could rest my head against, and then just like, okay, finding that acceptance so that it's okay. And now that if I do that in this lifetime, I'm not going to die
Mm,
from being an
yeah.
astrologer or or reading for people. Yeah. Yeah.
It almost like when you were describing that memory, I was like, maybe you were Joseph from Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, because that's what happened. Is like he was able to interpret dreams and stuff, and then I guess his interpretation upset the pharaoh, and then they wanted to kill him and stuff, right? And it's like, and I always didn't understand that story of like, hey, he's just delivering the message, like he's not gonna do that to you. You just just like
Right.
interpreting it. But then for you to have that memory, I was like, oh, wouldn't that be crazy if you actually that was your past life? You were
Right.
Joseph. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be very interesting to go back and explore that. But I haven't
Yeah.
yet. So, but I think that
Have you had other kind of flashbacks of other type of um, previous life memories too?
yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was always drawn to Venice, Italy. And then I
Mm-hmm.
watched this movie called, I think it was called Dangerous Beauty, and it was about courtesans. So the um, entertainers of very wealthy men,
Ah.
they were courtesans, that they were educated, they were primped and beautiful, and they were smart, and they were talented musically. They could sing, they could play an instrument, they could hold conversations with very rich and powerful men. So basically, like geishas or like glorified prostitutes.
Mm.
So I watched that movie, and it was like recognition, like, oh yeah, I definitely lived that life. Maybe
Oh
not as
wow.
that particular woman, but I
Yeah.
definitely lived that life because it was in Venice, And it was the
Mm,
courtesans and their lifestyle, and how women who were like the proper women were like, you were a wife and you had children. You weren't allowed
mm,
in the library to learn, whereas the courtesans, they were educated and they developed their talents of singing or musical talents or artistry or whatever. But just the duality of the life of a woman, like here's all this
mhm,
richness, but you were looked down upon as, you're a prostitute. But oh, you're a good wife, and you're a good woman, and you got married and had kids, and you had safety by having a husband. But man, you were like in a cage. You were very
yeah.
trapped, so it was a very interesting thing to look back at. As Yeah, I definitely think I was a courtesan in Venice at one point because of the recognition, and it was like an aha, like, oh my goodness, yes, I know that, I experienced that, I that is very familiar to me.
So with that having such a deep like root in the sense of in that this was you in previous lives, are you able to make a connection through those experiences to what you're doing and who you are now? Or is it just more of a recognition of like, oh, that was, a past life, but has no relevance to me now? Is there relevance to
Yeah, I,
you
I
now?
definitely could say there's relevance because when I was growing up, it was, or like a lot of young girls are told, you should marry a wealthy man so that he can take care of you, doctor, lawyer. Um, and back in the day, it was little girls are, you just help with the sewing, or throughout history, they were just kind of always stifled
Hmm.
in their self expression and whatnot. So then I could see that, like, I don't know if I carry that on from, I don't know, ancestry, or because, I'm from the Japanese family. So there's a lot of like women, very distinct women's roles versus men's roles. And I think that past life memory helped remind me that, oh my gosh, look at the opportunity I have today, where I can be the
Mm,
courtesan, learning and um, being self expressed and indulging in beauty and appreciating beauty, and nurturing gifts of music talent or artistry or whatever. I have that freedom. And then look at that, how far we've come, or I've come, so that, I'm no longer, um, I guess, limited by certain
hmm.
beliefs and stereotypes and opinions or beliefs of what a woman should do, say, be, their roles are. So it made me very appreciative of what I have today and who I am today, and my opportunities, and my daughter's opportunities of, whatever they decide, so how they
Yeah.
decide to live their life. So yeah, it was so funny because it's beautiful but shameful, and then
Hmm.
acceptant and respectable yet dull and limited. So it was just
Hmm.
a very interesting viewpoint to have. And now it's like you can break all stereotypes of what women's roles are, and then, move forward with that. So, yes. Oh, yes. So, that long story, long answer short, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also embarrassingly want to say thanks for explaining what courtesan was, because when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, I put that on my skin when I get itchy
It's like
bites and stuff.
courtesan.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, oh no, 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 that's not. I quickly realized that's not what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, very different. Yeah.
What are your your kids think about with, because I'm assuming you're pretty open with all of your of these kind of stories, but also with the spiritual practices that you are involved. Like, are
Right.
they also in it too, and really connected, or is there like what a lot of kids are like? I don't know what mom does.
Right, right. So I asked that question. I'm like, hey, what do you say when people ask, what does your mom do? And then they just say, oh, she does a lot of business stuff.
Hmm.
So, just kind of vague. But they're all very intuitive. I
Oh.
can see how, and there's a couple of them that just totally shut it out. They're like, it's
Hmm.
kind of overwhelming. And I go, no, that's just too weird.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of them that are like totally into it. I mean,
Ah.
they love it. They use it as life tools. So I'm running about a 50-50. But
That's
they
pretty
all
good.
have gifts. Yeah, it's just some of them decide to use them and some of them just are not interested. Yeah.
What about your husband? Like, what does he think?
He is a great what is that called? Sounding board.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, this and this past life, and and he's like, okay. He's like, Michelle, I'm always open minded, and I'll never say that that's not true. But he says, I do question and doubt. So, which is so helpful because then I know how
Hmm.
it's being received by other people that are not like
Yeah.
as on the woo woo train with me, that are kind of like, all right, okay. And then that's how I learned to explain things like perspective, what's the purpose of seeing these things or experiencing these things, and it helps me become a better reader, a better
Mm.
facilitator, practitioner, because we're all experiencing at different levels, earth
Yeah.
and playing on earth and in this lifetime, and very different levels of connection to spirit.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you have that in him because I can say from my interactions with you that I really enjoy the way that you explain things and you connect with things, and it doesn't have that feel of like, ooh, Michelle, that's a long stretch there to get to that point, like, which I've had those kind of experiences with others. So yours is like, yeah, you sound like I get
Yeah,
it.
right, right, right. There's a little bit of practical magic in it. So
Hmm.
it's not just total woo woo, airy fairy. There is a purpose behind having these experiences, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what I love about the way you described it and approach it is that your focus is about the result, not the why or the how per
Hmm.
se, like proving the how. It's more about, well, what was the result? And if that's what we were trying to get, like, let's focus on that. And that's what
Yeah.
I've learned in my later part of life, because I was always about like getting so distracted by, like, it's like as if, like, how did you make this cake? Like, tell me all the details. Like, but did I like the cake? Yeah. Well, that's all that matters. Like, you got delicious cake. Like, why do you have to like ruin the experience by trying to get all technical into it? And that's kind of how I've been starting to, switch my way of thinking is,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think you can also find a beautiful balance between the two, that
Yeah.
curiosity and that appreciation of the experience. And then when
Hmm.
you find that even ground, oh, that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My priest, we were once having a Bible study, a discussion on like, did this stuff really happen in the Bible, or like
Yeah.
all of these other kinds of philosophical stories or whatnot. And he said, I like to tell people I'm in the business of faith not necessarily fact. So can we prove these things? Maybe in the future we can, or maybe we can't. But the main thing, the meaning behind it all is the faith, like nurturing
Mm-hmm.
your faith in what you cannot see. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, this just came to me just recently, even if you see something, you don't necessarily believe it anyways. So,
Yeah.
some people say, well, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it. But then there's some people who even see it and they still don't believe it. So,
Mm-hmm.
you just got to find out what works for you and the meaning it has for you and the purpose it
Yeah.
has for you, and just kind of shift your perspective in that sense rather than looking like
Mm-hmm.
facts. Okay, what's the purpose? How's this improving
Yeah.
my life? And how am I going to use this to help others? So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
When sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so that's my husband's very supportive and helpful.
Good, good. I'd be very sad if it was the opposite, where it's like, yeah, he doesn't understand or believe in anything I do. And it's like, oh, that'd be so sad, because I could see how much this fulfills you and how excited you get, and how meaningful this is to you. And it'd
Yeah,
be just
yeah.
heartbreaking to be like, oh, but you go to your husband, he's like, ah, don't bother me that.
Wah, wah, wah. No, but he's a good balance for me too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So being that, your your children say, oh, you're involved with, you do business stuff, but ultimately, I mean, you're such an entrepreneur. Where is that something that you always had? Like, were you always just entrepreneurial, or is your family entrepreneur? Like, where did you get this, desire to go into entrepreneurship and also helping other entrepreneurs too?
Yeah, so my parents were entrepreneurs.
Okay,
They're
cool.
very much entrepreneurial. They had their own travel agency. My father, I affectionately and lovingly call him a wild child. So to have a 9 to 5 job would never work for him. He loves his freedom, and he loves to experiment and try and do
Mm,
different things, and he has these big visions and dreams. So to be a 9 to 5er would stifle and probably like be the death of him. So he's
yeah.
always wanting to, business and try different things. So that was something I had to come to heal, because then I always thought like early money misbelief that I had was that money, and this is going to be sound kind of odd, but in my mind, I thought money enslaved you.
Mm,
You had to work hard for money. People argued about money. People got
yeah.
stressed out about money, and that money was a bad thing. Like it was
Money
this,
is the root of all evil, right?
right? You had to like um, give up a lot of time with your family because you had to make money. So
Hmm.
I early on I was like, oh, this is entrepreneurship. Oh, I don't know about that. I like the safety of a paycheck, but the more and more I grew into myself, I realized that I could probably do a 9 to 5 job, but that wouldn't be fulfilling at all to me.
Hmm.
That I have this wonder and this love of spirit and the unseen, that even if I had a 9 to 5 job, I would always have something on the side
Yeah.
doing my other work, a side hustle, as they say, doing that kind
Hmm.
of work. So it is in my blood and in my like spiritual DNA, I guess you could say, that I would always be some kind of entrepreneurial um, aspect to what I do career wise. And
Hmm.
that in my chart, it's very much like that. My astrology chart,
Uh-huh.
I see that like career is kind of spiritual, the career is knowledge based, or like sharing or learning of knowledge and
Hmm.
ancient wisdom. So that's a great excuse right there. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not making it up. I'm not choosing that because of XYZ. It's because, yeah, that's who I am, really.
Hmm.
That's how I'm made. Yeah. So,
That's neat. Was there anything like when you would see your chart that it was at the time it wasn't clear to you that you agreed with, but then later on you're like, oh, it was right. Like when it said like, educational and spiritual, that at the time you're like, yep, makes sense. But was there ever something where it took a while for you to realize like, oh, you know what, it was true?
yeah. So it would definitely be my placement of Mars, because Mars in the chart could mean a number of different things. So the planet Mars could mean, like, on one side it could be activity and motivation and drive and, all this positive stuff. But it also could mean anger and war and
Oh,
conflict. So, and I'm
oh
like,
man.
oh, that's kind of interesting. So that, where Mars is, I had to learn, like, from kind of like take a step back and kind of look at it from a more, I guess, compassionate, well-rounded perspective of, like, yes, it's about anger, but sometimes anger helps you, like, get through things, like moves things forward.
Hmm.
And if someone's very laid back, like myself, who's very, like, go with the flow, sometimes Mars and anger energy, or that kind of energy, can help me move and motivate and, light a fire under my butt and get things going.
Yeah.
So how do you work with these planets and these energies of the planets that will work in your favor and not to your detriment?
Mm.
Or if you are expressing a lot of anger, like, okay, well, let's take a look at it, because anger is not bad, just like planets are not bad. You just have to, work with it and see how what meaning it has for you in your life, and how you're going to work with it. So that the Mars in my first house in Western astrology, I was very confused by that. But then I'm like, okay, that's like me, like, generating the energy, the emotions to make me progress.
Mm.
So, and, like, to be a spiritual warrior, right? Like, fight for what I believe in, fight for people that I see need help. Um,
Yeah.
I could work with that kind of war like energy. And not necessarily
Hmm.
warming and killing people, but warming, standing up for the little guy, being an advocate,
Hmm.
using the energy in that sense. So it has been, yeah, very eye opening. And of course, as you get older and, you learn things and about life and about yourself, you are able to kind of harness the more compassionate, more the neutrality of what you're seeing in your chart. And it's not just all bad. Some people have what could be perceived as challenging charts,
Hmm.
but then once you, like, shift your perspective and then ask, like, really good questions, like, okay, how is this helping me? What is the benefit for me in this chart?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's
Yeah.
no
I
such
think.
thing as a bad chart.
Hmm. Yeah. I think for those who are unfamiliar or uneducated, I would think if I was going to, I would look at it as like, oh, the chart is just telling me my future and this is what's going to happen. I have no control over it. Versus what the way you're explaining it is, no, it's actually tools to help equip you with pathways to seeking knowledge or seeking improvement or exercising things and all that kind of stuff. So it's not meant as an answer to like, well, this is the way it is and this is your life. Like,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
luck with it. It's more like, hey, here's how you can use this knowledge and understanding to get more of what you want, get more fulfillment, and put yourself in
Mm-hmm.
the right positions, right?
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than given a life sentence of doom and gloom,
Yeah.
right? Right? You're like, oh God, what's the point? So that would be terrible if I was a reader that did that. this is not good, and oh, this is really bad, and you
Yeah.
have this terrible yoga in your chart, and yeah, that would not be helpful.
Because I've had friends who had gone to see um, astrologers or fortune tellers,
Yeah.
and they would tell them these horrible things like, "Oh, you're going to get into a very bad car accident," and it's like, "All right, see ya," and it's like, what a horrible thing to leave them with. So they were just like, "I don't want to drive anymore because I don't want to get in a car accident." I was like, I don't think that was the. I don't think that's a good way to live your life. Like now, it was like constantly like looking over their shoulder, like, well, when's it going to happen?
Yeah.
Versus,
Yeah.
it probably was that could have been used in a different way to help versus limit
Right.
them like that, right?
Yeah. And I remember my first astrology reading, the guy told me, he said all of these things, but the only thing I remembered of the reading was that he said, oh, yeah, you could be good in business, but man, you're so hard headed. You're a very difficult person. Basically, like, you're not nice to work with, but you're going to make a lot of money.
Oh man,
I thought, oh, okay. But he could have said a bunch of nice things in the reading, but I don't remember them to
yeah.
this day. Um, I just remembered something about business and success, but not nice, but not a nice person, like hard person to be around or be with,
Oh
or
man.
something. And I thought, oh dear. And then I can't remember any nice things he said, or if he even said nice things. That just one thing stuck out in my mind. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely don't want to be that kind of um, reader, numerology
Oh,
or astrology reader. Yeah, no.
I thought you were gonna say I definitely don't want to be that kind of person to work for. Like, I was like, yeah, I can't imagine you being like this hard headed, like difficult to get along with person.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. Well, maybe if I took another turn, maybe I could have been that kind of person.
Yeah,
Who knows?
maybe.
But I'm enjoying life, being
Yeah.
who I am and the people I work with. And yeah, yeah.
Well, speaking of which, what kind of things um, do you see have been the most fulfilling as far as when you're working as the as a spiritual entrepreneur coach? Like, what has been most fulfilling for you, and what do you want to continue to keep doing? And is there something that you can share with the listeners who, if they hear this and are in that field, you would want them to know so that maybe you could be a good fit for helping them with their
Yeah.
business journeys.
Yeah. So it would be twofold. So one aspect would be I love coaching on the technical things, the technical tools. So the website, the Canva, the Notion, the Descript, all of these things that help them in their business. So I love
Mm-hmm.
helping people with their website, helping them create their website. So I do coaching I help them create their own website so that they can go back in and change things when they want to. They have the power. They're empowered to do these things rather than waiting on somebody who they hired and they have no idea how to even log into the back end of their
Yeah,
website.
we hear that all the
I
time.
do not like that. I think that's
Yeah.
when the warrior spirit comes out, like, oh, no, no,
Yeah.
no. Do not hold those people hostage. If they want to change something or add something, they should be able to. That's their storefront. That's their healing space, their
Yeah.
practice. So I love doing that. It's very fulfilling. And then when I help people with their website, how much of them comes out in their website. And I
Mm.
love to see that.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, when I'm helping people, I love to help them see that the amazing person that they are, the beauty of their soul and who they are as a human being. I love helping them see and showing them and pointing it out to them like, look, this is a wonderful aspect of you. This is the potential. This is your promise, your birth, your lifetime promise of what is possible for you. And then I love seeing how much of that they work with.
Mm-hmm.
and then how much they bring that to life. And it's so exciting. And then with the spiritual entrepreneurs, how much they incorporate that into how they serve or who they serve, or, what direction they take in their business. So I find that very fulfilling also. So I'm a very lucky person. I get to see some amazing transformations and see how, witness people growing in their humanity and incorporating more of their soul, their spirituality,
Mm.
in what they do here on earth, and how much that it's like a ripple effect. Like, okay, I'm supporting them, but they're supporting others that support others so I love seeing that. I maybe doing my small part in helping people, but then it also helps others that helps others. That what is that multi-level marketing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like Amway, but a good kind, and
Right,
it
right.
spreads up versus down.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I love the work that I do and the people that I work with. I'm very blessed in this lifetime, in this life. Yeah. The
Well, that's
friends that I
awesome.
have, the colleagues, the family that I have. Yeah.
Well, yes, you are blessed, but also yes, you deserve it because like we said, like you attract energies and spirits and people, and I think because you are such an amazing person yourself and
Oh,
that you bless others, that's why you get to experience all these good things. So
oh, thank you.
wanted to throw that at you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So if anybody wants to either seek out your services or just learn more about you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Yeah. So they could go to my website, and my website is moneylighthouse.com, www.moneylighthouse.com. I have a podcast called the Money Lighthouse Podcast for Spiritual Entrepreneurs. And that's a weekly podcast, as well as they could sign up for my newsletter, which I send out weekly. And it's just, little personal insights, tidbits, whatnot. So if they're interested in that, they could also sign up for the newsletter.
And what kind of things do you cover in your podcast?
So I do every other week, I do a new moon, full moon, Vedic astrology, Vedic wisdom for your business according
Oh,
to the,
cool.
the moon. So new moon or full moon. And then I also like salt and pepper in interviews, money, mindfulness, law of attraction, manifesting tips and techniques. So all of that is kind of mixed into the podcast.
Oh, neat.
So I'm
Well, you're
very
never short
lucky.
on topics. Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, never.
You have a lot to say.
Well, never. Rarely do I have a content block or
Yeah.
nothing to talk about. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's so awesome. I am so grateful that somehow the world has brought us all together, and again, I'm so appreciative for what you've meant
Yes.
to both Jamie and I,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm so glad that we got to hang out here and talk, and um, I hope more and more people, can hear what was said here today and kind of adopt that kind of
Oh
thinking because I think it makes
yeah,
such a difference for people.
yeah. And I drew a card that I wanted to share with you before we got on. Like as kind of a theme or message for our time together. And I was wondering if you'd like to listen to what the meaning was or
Yes,
hear
but
about the
explain to me
card.
what do you mean by when you said you drew a card? I thought you meant like how our kids draw us
Oh,
a little greeting card, and I was like, "Wow,
no, no,
that's so
sorry.
nice of you."
No, I have this Oracle card deck that I love, 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 love. It's the newest one that I just bought. It's called the Dream Weaver's Oracle. by Colette Baron Reed, and the cards are illustrated by Joel Nakamura. So they're the artist would receive information or like the theme of the card,
Uh-huh.
and then he paints it, and then they create oracle cards. So
So what are oracle cards?
oracle cards. So you've heard of the tarot
Hmm.
cards,
Yeah.
right? They're a divination. So this oracle cards are like themed cards. So this card deck is called the Dreamweaver's Oracle. You can have like Work Your Light Oracle, or you can have the Crystal Oracle or Numerology Oracle. So they're cards with um, images and meaning or descriptions. And
Hmm.
I like to pull cards for like, okay, what is my inspiration for the day? What is my message for the day? Or this is challenging. I'm open to receiving helpful guidance. So that's when you would pull a
Gotcha.
card. And so before we started, I said, so I, you know, opened myself up to receiving what is the message of the podcast, like the overarching message to the listeners for this podcast. And then
Hmm.
I put it away. I read it and then I put it away and I kind of forgot about it. But then I thought, oh, I think it would be nice to share it with you before we sign off as like a goodbye message or a closing
Yeah,
message for your listeners. So I
that'd be so
drew,
cool.
okay, so I drew the card When the Weavers Build the Sun. And there's these little guys um, working with the sun. And I'll
Hmm.
read you the meaning of it. It says the essential meaning is the value of dreaming big, success at seemingly impossible tasks. So the legend has it that when the dream weavers build the sun, they created a huge ball of fire so that they could see all the miraculous things they wove into being. They needed light and more life force energy to flood our world so life could grow and flourish. Their big dream didn't exist before they imagined what it could be. They made it up as they went along, with no plans to follow, nor certainty about how to do it. They claimed it energetically and followed the prompts of the conscious universe, their partner. They made the impossible thing real. Right now, if you're in a similar place, you have a big dream, but you don't have to know the how yet. Sometimes you question whether it's even possible and wondering if it's not meant to happen at all. Looking at the chaos in the world, you wonder if it's selfish to feel that you deserve any of your desires. Do not give up on your dreams. Something unique that will serve the greater good wants you to call it into life. You were given this idea as a gift from the divine, and it's your mission to forge a new path to bring it here. If you knew the how of it, it would mean that you're not dreaming big enough. Whatever your
Oh, wow.
dream, we need you to begin now. It's time to act. Hold the vision of success, but not too tight, and lean into this greatness, your greatness. Just think of how many you will touch by this action. Trust that you were made for this. Step forward and keep walking one step at a time, and the universe will open the doors one by one. So that is the
Wow.
message.
That is a pretty big one for what we were talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm very happy to share that message from the universe, from Source, God, the angels, yeah, Holy Spirit, wherever. Yeah. But
That's
thank
what me
you.
and
Mm.
and Jamie do is we just, whenever something good happens, we thank all that we could think of all the different sources,
Yeah.
just so that we don't
Yeah, I
leave
don't want.
anyone out.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. I love it. Ah, I love Jamie. I love you too. But thank you, Nolan, so much for inviting me to be a guest on your podcast. It was so much fun and long overdue. And thank you
Yes.
again so much.
Well, thank you, and I'll see you in a few days, I'm sure, as I walk by your and Jamie's Zoom call.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
this has been awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Oh, thank you so much.